It's not in the cards for you. I'm pretty good at insults, and I got the internet and a lot of free time.
You may not realize this, but young people are kind of stupid. Like, you'll be walking around and you'll be wondering why that chick is suddenly talking about why she needs apples. Well, somebody had said that they needed apples across the street, so of course she's going to start talking about why she needs apples. Or some guy is going to be paying attention to that. They usually are kind of dopey listening to the background chatter anyway. Because that's what you do when you're younger. You don't really separate from society because you want to be cool and fit in. You want to listen to and pay attention to everything that's going on all around you out there. Apparently, the way you get laid in Spokane is you go past the Reidler bar when it's about shutting down, which I guess would be 10 o'clock now? I don't know. I don't remember what time it is, but during COVID, it's kind of early, like 10, 11 o'clock. And you just say, "Welp," and then I realized I needed to get laid. And then you walk off, and then 3 chicks follow you to your car. So, I mean, if you're stupid enough to go with that guy that you don't know, or you're stupid enough to just pull a bunch of chicks that are that easy, it doesn't really matter how hot they are. You're probably stupid because they probably will fuck anything. Oh, it's a cheese sandwich. Better stick my vagina in it. I would not recommend any of these things. I would recommend if you're Generation X and you want to hit on Generation Z, you go up and you say, "Hey, I just wanted to say, that dress is just really stunning and I wanted to tell you that." Or, "I just wanted to tell you that that dress is amazing on you." You're going to get a thank you. And then you introduce yourself, "Hi, I'm," followed by your first name. And then you say something like, "Can I buy you a drink?" Or, "Do you like ice cream? I'm thinking about getting some ice cream. Would you like some ice cream?" But with enthusiasm, not with my deadpan, 41-year-old voice trying to rush through the bit kind of thing. Like, "Do you like ice cream?" "Oh, I love ice cream." "Oh, I'm thinking about going to the mall and getting some ice cream. Would you like to go get some ice cream with me?" "I would love to." That's how enthusiastic they're going to be. 21-year-olds are that open-minded, especially Generation Z. They're into diversity. They'll date black guys. They'll date older guys. The age gap district, the generation gap district in Spokane is the biggest kept secret here because nobody talks about it. You hear about that phrase, "post up." Well, you look on Lower Post Street in Bistango, the Volder Act, and Tempest Cellars are the more mature areas of town. The wine bar, the gastropub, or the beer pub, and the martini bar are great places to meet hot 21-year-old women. Probably the most gorgeous women I've ever seen in my entire life. And they cater to an older crowd that's like 40 to 45 to 60. So my age group, like 35 to 55-year-old guys and 21-year-old women. 18 to 24. Well, 21 to 24-year-old women. That's the spot. I've seen guys pick up like 1 or 2 a night. Really, you should strive for a relationship because it's going to be better for your health. And just don't do the slut fest. COVID rates are indeed rising in Spokane County, so you should probably be careful and not go with the really easy chicks or the guys of the dude bro misogynist fucking wigger assholes. I'm not going to pull my punches. I don't like those guys. They got like 7 girlfriends a week. Fuck them. You know what I mean? Fuck them. Fuck their sexist dude bro culture. Fuck them. Fuck any chick that would go with those fucking assholes. Fuck them. They're like Christian and name only types that worship money, greed, and power. Fuck them. And a lot of them are Democrats because they like Obama because of the rap culture. You don't need that shit. You don't need a data dude bro. I've noticed, so if you talk about misogyny with like 18-year-old women, they'll just still go with the misogynistic dude bro asshole. So you might want to recommend the misogynistic dude bro guys, the wigger types. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a Democrat and everything, but that's the only way to describe them. The white hip-hop crowd. In fact, just ignore the hip-hop crowd altogether because they're the most sexist males out there. Don't do anything like they do. Fuck them. Fuck them. "Oh, I need a clit," they'll say. "I need a clit." And then they'll be like, Like that dopey kind of like, look at me, I'm Mr. Innocent. Fuck you. Fuck your little sexist dude bro culture, bruh. Fuck that. So anyway, I wanted to read a note that I wrote. I haven't done a video in 3 months. I got my phone stolen by Stoner, a tweaker at a party I was at. I don't do any of that stuff. I actually haven't smoked weed in 3 months. But it was after that Biden check, and that was just an ordeal with Isaac's friends, and he went to Kootenai Mental Health to get help with his meth addiction in Idaho. So he's been gone since March, which I haven't seen him in 3 months, and I'm pretty close to getting access to a clean and sober house for living, a room for $400 a month. So I'm waiting on confirmation from that. I did an interview live at the place, and I think I knocked it out of the park. We'll see. But anyway, I wrote this note. Greetings, Marxists, scientists, and Dharmists. So hopefully you'll fit into one of those categories. This is a small track just refreshing people why the generation gap is so awesome between Generation X at this point in 2021 and Generation Z women, which would be 21-year-old women with like 18 to 24-year-old women with 35 to 55-year-old men, and why that is awesome. And it's all based in biology and science. Studies on generation gap love lends feelings of increased well-being to both participants in studies for decades, which may mean more flow of serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin, the three main chemical components of love. Of course, there's more components of love, but those are the three ones. The highest periods of telomerase in the egg are 18 to 24 years old and sperm from 35 to 55 years old. There are reports of Marfan syndrome, schizophrenia, autism, and Asperger's syndrome from fathers past 35, but men with these four diseases tend to be socially awkward anyway and tend to take more time to impress women. Otherwise, increased telomerase would give a zygote more tactile strands of DNA, increasing the capability of a human cell by 300 to 400%. A lot of people just don't want to have children, period. A lot of people don't want to have children because of overpopulation or that it's expensive. Those were my reasons. I just didn't want to have kids because of overpopulation and it's expensive. Then I changed my mind when I was 36 and I'm 41 now. I've just been really careful. I want someone really hot because hot is healthiness. If somebody is really attractive on the eyes, they're really, really healthy. Like just a really gorgeous woman. Any chick that would go 2 times to a guy is probably not the dude. One way to break in that is you go like, there's more triples today than couples. Well, we're not a triple. Then you start talking to the one you like. You know what I mean? Because she's giving you the open. Anyway, feelings of well-being would indeed come from increased motor function of the pituitary gland, the house of the sex drive in the brain, the right supramarginal gyrus, the social mirroring center, or the empathy region of the brain, and an increased function of the immune system, a possibility of less abundant testosterone in a male, which begins to drop by 1% every year at the same time in high progesterone in a young adult female, by which chemical equilibrium would occur, all leading to feelings of well-being. This too would be marked by increased wattage of van der Waals forces within the antibodies when detecting pathogens, at least in the reproductive systems of both participants in the spring-autumn romance, and again concurrently the daddy-daughter zygote, all of which would be better feeling love by way of more lust, oxytocin, more happiness, more serotonin, and more calmness from more dopamine, and an improved immune system, more telomerase in the antibodies, increasing VDW wattage. A lot of that is my own theory. The van der Waals forces wattage would indeed come from longer telomeres within the chromosomes. And all that is my own theory based on the increased telomerase within the egg and the seed. An increase in VW wattage would cause antibodies detecting foreign bodies entering the body to detect outside substances from further away, which would lead to antibodies detecting foreign substances sooner, which means sperm entering the body and a penis entering her body would trigger her pituitary gland to increase oxytocin sooner in an orgasm. So while high progesterone would elevate in an under abundant middle-aged man's testosterone, increased telomerase in young adult female ejaculate would lead to a better feeling male orgasm and cause her to have a better feeling orgasm as well, and a potentially sooner orgasm from increased VDW wattage within all antibodies, leading to those of daddy-daughter love, largely, I think, because fecal telomerase in an egg is 21 years old, and fecal telomerase in sperm is 45 years old, which would indeed elevate the motor function of the sex drive, the pituitary gland, the social mirroring center or empathy region, the right supramarginal gyrus, and reproductive system and antibodies electrical output, the van der Waals forces, in order to elevate and protect both a healthier zygote and parents of that zygote in terms of an elevated sex drive, elevated social mirroring / empathic response, and elevated immune system, all of which explains the midlife crisis in men feeling of chemical equilibrium in a spring-autumn daddy-daughter relationship, also known as a silver fox relationship, and both feeling better by participating in generationally skipped age gap love. So that's my own theory or my own conjecture based on these reports of well-being and chemical equilibrium in the daddy-daughter spring-autumn romance with older men with a 20-year age gap, and also the high telomerase in the egg and the sperm. So my theory is that it increases the electrical output of the van der Waals forces of antibodies, and also the pituitary gland and the right supramarginal gyrus. In fact, it might actually do the amygdala and all other functions of the brain, because when in this other areas like where luck is processed, because there's an increase in things like success when you're in a relationship with a woman who's 20 years younger than you, which would mean that motor functions and things like the orbital frontal cortex might get increased, and also the prefrontal cortex and the frontal lobe, and things that process information like the temporal lobe and the visual cortex. The brain itself, all of the brain might be functional increase from this kind of daddy-daughter spring-autumn romance. This also explains why this world is a fraud, because a number of studies from Zurich, Cambridge, and Harvard have been detecting telomere attrition from fathers under 25 since 2012, which coincides with studies on mothers over 25 and a drop in intelligence in the human species since the Victorian era. So those two things have been going up, younger fathers and older moms, since the Victorian era, at around 1840, with a sharp downturn in IQ since 1975. Also, the cougar relationship has been going up since 1975. The physical fitness since 1980 and empathy since 2000 has taken a steep downturn. This is puzzling and curious, since silverback primates seek out sex predominantly from young adult females, as do all silvering-haired mammal species, including human beings, during midlife, and this is twinned by the fact that seeding fruits rot in the autumn, depositing seeds in the ground, followed by a seasonal skip of winter frost, followed by a spring pollination from flowers, which is where we get the term spring-autumn romance. And it is also curious that during Athenian democracy, within the Roman axial age of 500 BC, older men in the same middle age range took young maidens most of this period in their lives as they moved from soldiers to senators, as they inherited land from their fathers, when life expectancy was 80 years old, like today, followed by a medieval period after the fall of the Western Empire in 476 AD to around 1920, when war and hard labor before human ingenuity was forced by circumstance to change from herbs to pills in order to survive. So that's an extension of my theory, or conjecture, that there's more younger maidens taken by older men that are around 40 to 60 years old in the Roman era, and that might be why they lived longer during that time period. What is to be understood here is that Generation X, my generation, is a very small generation, with only 2.5 million unmarried straight men, and Generation Z, your generation, is a very large generation, with 500 million straight adult females. If you can't find it in your heart to date me, you're specifically missing out on a quite handsome, intelligent, compassionate man due to your own classism, ableism, agephobia, and love of greed from young males, where they have the multiple chicks, which will decrease your sex drive, decrease or our children's cells by 350%, and also make you die sooner and feeling less healthy, Spokane. Oh, and especially the bar Bustango and street taco place Conchinito, both of which are fantastic date locations and a wonderful little Washington State city. And the chance of me passing on bipolar to our kids is only 10%, about the same as tooth decay. Bipolars also tend to be revolutionaries. Obviously, look no further than Lucas Werner. Your greed, classism, bigotry conflicts with socialism. So, since Bernie Sanders' Generation Z is a socialist generation, so if you're into that ableism, you're into that agephobia and classism and greed of multiple chicks, you're going against socialism. You're also going against kindness, which is what Biden would recommend. You're not a very good Democrat. You're not a very good Christian. Just in case you're a Christian in right way. But you're probably a socialist if today you're a Zoomer, also known as Generation Z. So if I see you with multiple chicks, I just see you as somebody that is going against socialism. You're just an asshole. You're just a douchebag. Nobody needs to know you. You're multiple chicks to a dude. Fuck you. You're greedy. And you're someone who loves greed. There's nothing wrong with you. Except you go against everything to do with what the younger people agree with. Sharing the wealth. You're just flashing your greed. We don't like you. We don't need to. But what I'm saying is that shows indicativeness of the soullessness that America has become with unkindness, bigotry, and greed, including classism. Prove to me that you love me. Let me buy you lunch at Cochinito. I think this is your problem, Generation Z. Okay, so before the last lockdown, I was doing videos on YouTube for hire where I would sort of mitigate between forces on the internet. There was a conflict between somebody on the PlayStation Network and he got his chick stolen, and I kind of told his story and I offered it to the other guy, and the other guy didn't want to pay me the $50. But I want to do stuff like that over Cash App. I'll set up a new Cash App account. I just got a new phone and I'll set up a new Cash App account. And you can find me at lucaswerner79@gmail.com. That's one of my email addresses. And if you email me there, I'll give you my Cash App account. And you can do the thing where you send me $50 and I'll do a personal video for you. I'll do love letters, I'll do advertisements, I'll do a mitigation between you and another force over the internet. Anything that you want to give me money to do, and I accept $50. I do owe somebody a project, so if you want to email me at that address from down south in North Carolina, I'm not mistaken, send me that script and I'll do it now. I got my phone stolen at a party from a meth addict, and I was smoking weed and they were smoking meth. And I got my phone stolen, and I've been on hiatus for 3 months because I didn't want to get a phone. I was tired of being on the phone. But I got a new phone because I'm getting a new apartment potentially, and I needed to contact people and people to contact me. So there's the address. Send me the money over Cash App. I'll give you the Cash App address and we'll crank this mother out. Maybe you're just afraid of a better choice. But I guarantee you're going to have a good time. I mean, it's that or you go and you just smoke weed, which is also awesome. But I mean, there's this option. We're socialists. You can't just be greedy with women. You need to use I statements. And giving into a guy's greed? Oh, come on. He deserves 3 girlfriends because he's black or he's your age? Okay, you're bigots at that. You understand that bigotry is not cool. We're left wing. Clearly, I'm not going to stop until I have a girlfriend or a date. The right wing are terrorists. The left wing, not so much. We're not that violent. Hook it up. You know, when they say post up, what they're talking about is post street. That's the GenX, Gen Z scene. We don't need bigots in Spokane. Okay, here's something that's kind of cool to have if you're beta testing games. If you're prototyping games, I got all this stuff. It took me like 3 days to build up this supply. But I got 2 decks of playing cards. This is really cool. So I got like the 2 decks of bicycle playing cards, both 52 card decks. Then like a whole bunch of dice. These are really cool, these directional dice. So you can like throw them down and like your pieces are going to move in a certain direction. So that's northeast, southeast. I actually built a game based on these directional dice where you can move in any direction you want, but your last move had to be that direction. So I put a compass on the page. I'm just like that. I did 4 games that I made at the INBH, no, not the INBH, the Kalispell stabilization, where I made a bunch of those games, like 4 of them, where I just like drew them out on canvas with paper. And I think one of them I can sell. Maybe a couple of them. I have the instructions so I can redo it again. And I also got these like pillow chips, different colors. Like that. So I got 20 of all these different colors. So I got the blue, I got the green, I got the brown, and I got the red. The red are my favorite because they show up the best. But the gold are also nice. So I got the 4 of these bigger black dice. I got 2 of these D20s. So you could probably do like a Dungeons and Dragons type of game using all the pieces that I got just individually. It costs like $45 to do this little kit, but I think that's really cool to do. And I got some sketch paper. I need to get some colored pencils. Maybe I'll do that today at Rite Aid if they have any nice ones. I'm working on one now that's going to be a few $100s to make. It's a massive storyboard where it's about Saturnalia coming back in the future in a history that's monarcho-communism. So they're like making the sausage, and I've talked about all this sort of thing. But it's just really, really deep and enriching. I got this game today because it's a one-player game, and I don't have any one-player games. It's called Cartographers. And I wanted to play it while I'm waiting for the housing to come through. It's supposed to come through this week. And I'll have a room and a place for $400 a month. And it's nothing special, but it's with 5 other guys. It's clean and sober living, which is fine because I haven't smoked weed or done anything in 3 months. But I got this to keep myself entertained because it's a 1-player to 4-player game, and I don't see a lot of 1-player games. But they do exist, and there's quite a few of them. And I just wanted to see if it was fun gameplay, and it looks like it would be. It's kind of like Solitaire. It's a solitary game. It's got this big, chunky pad of papers, these really neat cards with these cool attacks, and you know, I just thought it would be cool to get a 1-player game to see what that was all about. She showed me 3 of them that I liked, and I ended up settling on this one. One looked a little too small. One of them didn't look like too much fun, and this one looked like the most fun, and it was $25. Cartographers. Again, I just want to mention that if you are Generation Z, if you're 18 to 24-year-old woman, and you want to come and hang out with me, and I'll buy you pizza. I'm an age gapper. I'll take us to Twigs, and I'll buy us pizza. Be beautiful, and between 18 and 24 in Spokane. You know that 90% of the generation is socialist, so they're not about the power of money or the power of bigotry, and I'm Generation X. Bistango, the Volder Act, and Tempest Sellers are the big Generation Z woman, Generation X scene on Post Street in Spokane. So that is the scene for people to hang out that are in that generation gap. The bigots will bring up shit from the past that doesn't make any sense because they're morons. But we don't really need that. They're dating like guys multiples at a time sometimes at the bar scene, and they're slutting around during COVID. But most people are into relationships. Like most people are into relationships. Some people are down to just have sex. Some people are just down to have a meal, and that's fine too. And if you wanted to come hang out with me, I'll buy you Twigs. I just got a cell phone, so if you harass me, I'll just call the police. Actually, I'll get hold of Sta, and I'll get rid of you. You know what I mean? Like, just don't harass me. Be cool about some shit. There's the guys down here. They got 7 girlfriends. You know, a different one every day. They're dangerous, stupid dudes. You know what I mean? I'm not about that. I'm a one man to one woman kind of guy. But I don't judge except to say that you're greedy. And if you know all these women and you want to talk to me, well, okay, hook it up. Because otherwise I'm not interested in hanging out. I got other things to do with my time, like eat glorious pizza and play 1-player games like Cartographers, which is way more fun than listening to a bunch of bullshit. Okay, here's the difference. Let's say you're Generation Z and a female, and I came up to you and I asked you out on a date. I'm clearly Generation X. I was born in 1979. What would you say? If I'm black and did it, oh, you would probably do it. But if I'm Generation X, you know what? I'm a good person. I'm a Democrat. I'm a socialist. I march with BLM, but Generation Z, it still seems to me like you're still bigoted. Except it's all about classism when you go to the bars, right? Because the guy's got a car, so you'll go 2 or 3 at a time to him. Because reasons. It doesn't really matter. It just seems like a very bigoted generation. It doesn't have to be a bigoted generation, because all I'm doing is offering pizza. Why the no? What does it matter, right? I guess I'll just wait around for the 9th year in a row as you get ready to go have pizza with me. Why do I want to date younger women? Well, the midlife crisis, I don't know. It's supposed to increase your feelings of well-being and chemical equilibrium. But if I were your age, you would do it. Here's what I don't get about Christians. Luke 12:15 says, don't be greedy, but whenever I meet you, you're out there walking around with more than one chick. The atheists, study by study, are known for being nicer than Christians, but you'd never hook me up with anything. You want me to be self-reliant because you act like a bunch of Republicans. Both of you guys, Spokane, you steal from me and you get your younger women, but then you leave me stranded after I tell you about van der Waals forces and how it increases the feeling of well-being. I hope you feel guilt for this, because karma's going to be a bitch. I deserve a girlfriend. I'm a good dude. Maybe I should say that I deserve a girlfriend because I'm an asshole, so I fit in. Okay, fine, I deserve a girlfriend because I'm a dickhead. Generation Z, I really don't get it. You're a socialist generation, and I supported Bernie Sanders as well, and you're socialist because of Bernie Sanders was what you were for. But whenever I see the adult crowd out there, the young adults, I see it even among my generation and baby boomers. I see you, like, half the time you have multiple chicks per dude. So that's greed. You're not socialist. You're capitalist. Also, a lot of bigotry among Gen Z, agephobia, ableism. Oh, because you're bipolar, you won't see me as viable because you're saying that I'm bipolar. All these things are what prevent a nice, sweet relationship. But what I'm saying is, I'm just sitting here in Sweeto Burrito, 9 years alone, really digging Gen Z just because you're young and beautiful women. I'm a middle-aged dude. I'm 41 years old. You could be here eating a burrito with me and tater tots, except you're giving in to other dudes after I preached the age gap relationship for 5 years. Now among Bistango, Voldor Act, and the other crowd, what was it, Tempest Sellers, the 20-year age gap with the older guys is very popular now. So I'll be good as soon as I have a girlfriend. In my heart, I feel like you're attacking me, and I feel left out because of this. Why? Money, power, greed? Well, you're socialist. Age phobia? Every other Gen X dude but me? Sorry's not going to cut it. I need you to go on a date with me. You'll date baby boomers. I'm not blind. This dango. My friends of Generation Z, I don't know if I can really trust you, because I remember not too long ago, a couple of you guys, you came up to me, you asked me for a cigarette. Of course, I don't smoke, but you came up and asked me for a cigarette. So I asked, do you know any women about your age? And they're like, no, I don't really know anybody, but I know a 30-year-old hooker. See, that's what it's like when you're Generation X. They straight lie to you, because you see the generation gappers everywhere you go. I don't think Generation Z deserves Generation Z. You know what I mean? Like, you guys just keep lying to us, so we have to go get our own shit.
Well, okay, that shows your generation to be bigoted. They go to older guys because we're more mature. Maybe you should grow the fuck up.
I just want to run through real quick why I think the midlife crisis for men exists, but the midlife crisis doesn't really exist for women. It kind of does because of that whole cougar MILF culture. Why? Well, I wrote it down earlier today on Reddit. It was kind of boring, but my theory is that the new discovery of Generation X at this time period, seed 35 to 55-year-old, and 18 to 24-year-old egg, are, since they're loaded in telomerase, which are give your kids stronger baby DNA. There are all these studies on the 20-year age gap with older men, giving a feeling of well-being and chemical equilibrium between the two parties. Well, that can only mean that it increases the power of the immune system because of the higher telomeres on the chromosomes within the gonads, and the reproductive cells would do that. The reproductive juices, as it were, would make the cell capability increase by 300 to 400% according to the studies. When you combine the two, it's you split the difference. It's 300 to 400%, somewhere in that neighborhood. It would be something like that, and that would indeed increase the cellular capability and all the other things within the bloodstream, within your system. Now, if it comes to thinking about that, it would mean that the antibodies would detect pathogens sooner, which means they can detect them from further away, which means that the age gap relationship must increase the wattage of the van der Waals force of antibodies detecting pathogens. It would increase the immune system of what would become a healthier zygote in each corresponding part. So, in doing that, the pituitary gland would increase in capability, and also the right supramarginal gyrus, because there's plenty of studies that say that older men are more attentive as fathers at that age, and younger women are also more attentive as mothers at that age. So it would indeed increase the right supramarginal gyrus capabilities somehow, because that would make you more attentive as a parent, more doting. Which would make a relationship more loving. You see what I mean? Since the relationship has a higher capability of van der Waals forces within the sexual organs, it would make and the empathy obviously increases, since the 2013 studies on older fathers within at least insects and mammals. You're more empathic in these types of relationships, known as the spring-autumn relationship, or the daddy-daughter relationship. Okay, I'm single. I still want a girlfriend. Why? Well, now I just understand it more. Now I want a girlfriend even more because I need those van der Waals forces, baby.
I kind of feel like I need to describe the feeling of well-being on the biological perspective. I mean, I'm taking biology and microbiology classes, and I've talked all day about well-being in terms of the van der Waals force, because well-being has to do with your happiness and also your health. So happiness within the body would simply be serotonin. But health would be your immune system, and your immune system works on what's known as the London dispersion force, also known as the van der Waals force. And what that does is, an antibody is a molecule within the body that attacks a virus. So there's antibodies that attack COVID-19, there's antibodies that attack the common cold, there's antibodies that attack HIV. Every system within the body that fights a disease produces certain kinds of antibodies. There's millions of kinds of diseases, so there's millions of kinds of antibodies. They're basically anti-diseases. And that's what well-being would be the power of the van der Waals force, because you're detecting it, causing the molecules to bend one another, so an antibody can come up and destroy a pathogen by engulfing it. Well-being would be that feeling of health. So that would mean that your immune system would be the opposite of compromised. It would be the increase in the power of the immune system, which would be joules per second, which is a watt. A watt hour is joules per second. There's statistical reports of age gap relationships, which I predominantly talk about that in board games and the other things I talk about in our rants and raves, but I've decided to get back into the age gap thing because I thought about this for a while I was in the hospital, and I thought about well-being and what it was in terms of health, and I just had learned about the van der Waals London dispersion force within my microbiology class, so I started thinking about, well, okay, then it would be a more powerful cell that destroys the disease. And if there's all these studies and reports on things, every time you hear anything in the news or on television, there's a study associated with it. How beer makes you feel good, how wine will thin the blood and make you healthier if you drink in moderation, why food produces oxytocin, which gives you those feelings of less when you eat certain types of food like oysters and chocolate. Everything you hear about in the news or on television show is some kind of study. So whenever you see a study, there's always thousands and thousands more studies. So within this Generation X, Generation Z pattern, there's these reports in big-time journals like the New England Journal of Medicine and PLOS and PNAS and the Royal Academy of this feeling of well-being within those relationships. So that feeling of well-being would be an increase in the amount of serotonin, and it would be an increase in the amount of the van der Waals force, which would be wattage of the antibodies, which would be joules per second that the antibodies produce. Why might that be? Well, there's those studies from Eisenberg and whatnot on the increase in the ability of sperm in a certain age group that we just discovered since 2012, producing a stronger more tactile DNA in a child. And I looked at that and I thought, what about women? Well, that was 18 and 24. So you would create a stronger zygote through that Generation Z, Generation X pattern. Which also creates a feeling of well-being, which makes sense because you're linked out the sacral chakra, which is just below the solar plexus in the reproductive system in the body, the sexual, creative, instinct-based center of the body. Then there's all these other chakras within the body that Buddhists talk about in their study of yoga and yogic medicine and stuff like that. But it's basically linking at the reproductive system and the gonads. And because the union itself creates a stronger child, what it does is it cranks up abilities of empathy within of the father, because the woman at that age is high telomerase all over her body, but in the men it increases within the reproductive cells in the 35 to 55-year-old range, which means the sperm banks need to stop operating the way they do, because 32 is the age in which they stop accepting sperm. What they should start expecting people to give sperm is between the ages of 35 and 55. So as a 41-year-old guy, that becomes incredibly interesting to me. And people look at that like, oh, it's your interest because of that. Well, yeah, not really. The guy that discovered that gay men produce more serotonin at the same level as women was also a gay scientist. So that's not at all surprising that would be an interest to him. So by linking at those two chakras, it produces a stronger zygote, a healthier zygote, by producing a more tactile strands of DNA, which also makes the father more doting towards the children since the 2013 studies. Because why? My theory is that this ligature of joules per second or watts of the antibodies in the van der Waals force increases the capability of the right supramarginal gyrus within the brain, which is the social mirroring center or the center of empathy. And they say the Wern is stupid. Stupid like a silver fox. I'm not silvering, yeah, I'm not quite a silverback, but that does explain perhaps why silverback primates and all mammals are attracted to young nubile females, because it creates a stronger pair bond and it creates a stronger child. Who knew, right?
Hey God, it's Lucas. Can you fucking hear me, you non-existent fuck? I'm an atheist. They're out there, these hot 18-year-olds and 21-year-old women with baby boomers in Spokane, Washington. Now send me a committed relationship of the same. Prove your existence. Lord, you crazy non-existent fuck, prove you exist. Give me love.
There may be some credence to why men go bald starting when they're 35th year. And my own personal take on that is that the energy transfer molecule within the body is known as adenosine triphosphate. And when adenosine triphosphate breaks down, ATP, it breaks down into adenosine diphosphate and sometimes adenosine monophosphate. In the Krebs cycle as food. It also breaks down glucose, and there's 10 different steps within the Krebs cycle. Don't make me go into it now, because some of those molecules are like that long when it comes to describing how they're pronounced. It sounds like a Buddhist concept. They're so huge. But my own personal take on that is that men go bald because there's those studies on the increase in the power of sperm through telomerase in that same age range when men start to go bald. Well, the body says, you know, we don't need the energy for the hair as much, so we're going to break down the hair in order to focus on the nuts. Because that's the period of time, according to these new studies, that men give their kids the healthiest, more tactile strands of DNA. Who knew, right? That's my personal take on it. I don't know that for sure. But I think it would have to do with adenosine triphosphate being focused more on the gonads rather than the hair and other unnecessary aspects of the body, like hair. There's other things that are unnecessary. What would be an interesting thing for me is to understand why the nose gets bigger. What's the point of the nose getting bigger? Well, probably because it beefs up because the olfactory bulb weakens, so it needs more strength in order to smell, in order to taste. The eyes get more squinty, you know what I mean? It's like, why does the body focus more on the nose than the eyes? Well, the body focuses more on the nose than the eyes because smell is more associated with memory than sight. And you would need a stronger memory because that's the time period where your memory centers start to break down within your body too. I'm just a lay scientist. I'm some guy like Michael Faraday, just thinking about things and talking about things. I don't have a doctorate. I'm trying to get an AA so I can get a doctorate later in life, and I'm 41 years old. I study and am a generation gap love scientist. So I think about these sorts of things. How energy works within the body.
You're scaring the hell out of me, man. Everything that I do good, I try to do good